Good afternoon, everyone. I'm doing the parade. I've never done this before, so please support me. It's a real honor. It's a real honor to be here. When Omi asked me, I think she wasn't thinking when she asked. She probably just said it and she couldn't take it back. And now I'm here moderating with some amazing people who have inspired me in different ways. And I hope that by the time we finish our discussion, you will be encouraged and you'll find the boldness and the courage to do it afraid. So let's start. Okay, so I'm going to start with a game. Everybody on this panel is here because you've done it afraid at some point in your life. I'm going to give you 1 minute. I don't know how that's possible. But I'm going to give you 1 minute to tell us your story of doing it afraid. So starting with Dr. Ola. 1 minute, if possible.
Okay, so the clock starts now.
Yes.
I was born in a tiny town called Lowestoft, and my primary school only had 3 classes, primary 1 and 2, primary 3 and 4, and primary 5 and 6, and it was run by nuns. So there I was in an all-white village, being fostered by white foster parents with my foster kids. There were like 10 of us in the house, and I was thinking about how I wanted to go to university. Of course, everybody advised against that because it's a small village mentality. Everybody stays in the village, works at the hairdresser's, post office or grocery store, and nobody really thought beyond that. So me going and saying, oh, you know, I want to go off to secondary school and university was a very weird idea at that point. But eventually I did, and I was the first person, one of the first people from the town to get into medical school. I went far away, which everybody was scared of, and I ended up going to the University of York. After my parents, and Bola Tito knows this because I went to school with her, sent me back to Nigeria for a few years, I eventually went to university. So I learned a lot from my experience in Nigeria about, aspiring and wanting to sort of move forward. And that's, I ended up going to medical school. So I started medical school, and a major problem, obviously, was getting the money to fund it because it was really expensive. So I started working on the side. Working on the side wasn't enough, so I started my shoe hustle. My shoe hustle was, I was working at Timberland at the time when I was in university, and that was a time when I'm sure nobody really that wasn't born in the 80s knows about these Timberland boots, but they were cool when we were kids. And I was working in Timberland. I was getting my 80% discount off of the shoes. And Beyonce also came out with a video where she was wearing some very tall women's Timberlands, which encouraged people to buy my market. So there I was working in Timberland and selling my knockoff Timberland shoes on eBay, and I managed to finish medical school. After that, I wanted to take a master's. So I started looking at the prices of masters, 6 million naira, 8 million naira, 10 million naira, all money that I didn't have. So I decided to look for scholarships around the world and see which ones would take me for free. Everybody thought that was a very bizarre idea, but I applied to 25. I got into one. It was in Tokyo, and the Japanese scholarship that I got not only gave me a free postgraduate study, but actually started paying me every month. So it wasn't bad. I took my baggage and moved to Japan. After that, I had to do it afraid one more time. I didn't want to go back to England. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something dynamic, and I wanted to do something that I could really take ownership of, and I wanted it to be in Africa. So that was when I bought my one-way ticket and started up in Nigeria, started my business, which is an air ambulance business, and we're in the business of moving people who are critically ill from one place to another. Obviously, we started with planes and private jets, which were super expensive and out of the reach of most Nigerians. And once again, I had to do it afraid. I had to think about how we could serve ordinary Nigerians at a very low price. So we started talking to the commercial airlines about what we could do. We got in touch with some designers, and we managed to build a medical cabin that can fit into any commercial plane in Nigeria that can take patients around Nigeria at about 10% of the price of using our own plane. So this morning, after I managed to convince the entire board of ARIC that I won't scare all their passengers away and the MD, we did our flights for a person with a road traffic accident, which I just came back from this morning, with our medical cabin on the ARIC plane. So I've been through a lot of doing it afraid moments in my life, and I'd encourage everybody here to also try and continually sort of reinvent themselves and keep on doing it afraid. And I think I've just
like 10 minutes, so it's fine. I don't know what else I'll ask you now.
I tried to speak really quickly, so thank you. I think that was 60 minutes.
That's amazing. Well, 60 seconds, literally. Okay, so next, Mr. Jimmy Terra, please.
All right. My name is Jimmy, and I was born into a home where if you're not bold, you might just suffer through life. I don't know. By the time I'm through, you understand. Anyway, my father is a lecturer. He's into agriculture. I studied agricultural economics. My father has a farm, and I'm the firstborn. You know what my destiny is, right?
A farm.
And so I had to do it afraid by running away from home, right? 7th of January 2002, I came to Lagos. I didn't really know anybody, but I got my first job. I worked with a couple of organizations, 5 of them. But I think that by the time I got to the 4th organization, which is UBA, I was head of recruitment. I'd done performance management, organizational development, a couple of other things. I was young. I am young, all right? And I had a few accomplishments under my belt. I was a senior manager. I had a brand new car. I had bought a house with mortgage. You know, everything was fine. I wasn't 30 years old yet. I was okay, as it were. And then I had this idea. Okay, there's a particular day that a gentleman, Fernando, to a number of people know him, walked into the bank to make a presentation. And as he was speaking, I just said, that is me. That is me. That is me. And so after that day, I made up my mind that I would do it afraid. I didn't call it that then, all right? And so started taking steps in that regard. I had to leave the bank, sold the house, and returned the bank's money. I moved from a 4-bedroom duplex to a 3-bedroom flat, all right, to start all over again, right? Made quite some sacrifices, started to do my own business by the side. 2010, I left, then I'd moved to Bank PHB, I was head of recruitment there. I left the bank, then I was earning, how much? 18.1 per annum or so, wasn't too bad. And then I moved to 0 naira per month because my business failed. And I had a choice, did you go back or go forward? I chose to go forward, thankfully. And looking back now about the last 4 or 5 years, it's been good. So I go to places now, I tell people that I can't buy regular stuff. Are you Jimmy Terry? I'm like, oh no, I'm not the one. It's my twin brother, right? And also it's been, I enjoy my life, doing what I do. Now what do? I speak, I inspire people, I provide materials in terms of development, and I'm enjoying myself. Thank you.
Okay, so obviously nobody's actually going to stay 1 minute, are they? No, it's not going to happen. Okay, so Dr. Jumoke Oduwale, please tell us your story.
I'm inspired already. Well, I'm also a campus kid. My father's a professor. My mom ended up retired as the registrar at University of Lagos. Things were regular. I was a law student. I think it was about midway through law school that I realized that I didn't like the idea of getting a C. You know, so I had some classmates that was, let me just get my 3 points and go. Let me just get my C and go. And something about it started grating on my nerves. So anyway, I ended up with a 2-1, which was, well, the top right then, although I wasn't top of my class. But more importantly, it was the season where there were a lot of strikes. So my 3rd year was done over 24 months. A lot of people, every time there was a strike, a batch of my friends would leave to England, leave to the US, and it was kind of depressing. But I felt I was going to finish and finish well. Now, my parents, I told you, are academics, regular middle class, and I knew that they could not afford to send me for a master's abroad because I decided that I needed to have a master's to top up on what I've done. So I went to the British Council, got the books out, wrote a handwritten application to about 3 or 4 schools in England. I asked for scholarship forms, And fast forward, I got admitted to University of Cambridge on a full scholarship. Wow. So my parents, of course, they were very happy. All they had to do was drop me at the airport and pick me up. Everything was paid for. And the only condition was you should come back home and help your country. Now, not everybody does that. But when I got to Cambridge, for the first time, I did a course called International Economic Law. And I went on a field trip to the WTO, to the World Trade Organization. At this point, I had learned just for the first time about the asymmetry of the international economic order, and I was quite traumatized. Is this what developing countries are facing? Is this what is happening? Anyway, I'll try to keep to, because I
Take your time. I'm so intrigued. I just want to hear the whole story now. I forget my role.
Okay, so I go on this field trip with Russians, Canadians, different people. And I get to the World Trade Organization. Countries from, you have the seats. I look in, the Nigeria desk is there. There's no Nigerian. In the hallway, I bump into about 18 people going for lunch. We bump into this delegation. They were the Canadian economists, not the whole Canadian delegation. The Canadian delegation was over 100 people. Wow. Economists, lawyers, strategists, negotiators. And I'm looking for the one Nigerian, and I didn't find him. So I went to the phone book, and I called him. I said, my name is Jumoke Odiwole. I'm a student from Cambridge. He said, what's the matter? Are you in trouble? I said, no, I'm not in trouble. But I was looking for you, and there's no you. So he said, wait there, I'm coming. He took me around Geneva, the UN, a full tour. And he said, look, I'm the only one. I cover UNCTAD, I cover WTO, I cover Brussels, also the EU. So the magnitude of the problem dawned on me. But then again, I also got fascinated by corporate finance. So I came back to Nigeria because I was engaged. My professor then was like, why don't you go to the WTO? There are hardly any Africans there. I said, you know what? And my husband, funny enough, was like, you should go. These are modern times. Anybody that knows my husband knows that's what he's like. You should go. These are modern times. We'll make it work. But anyway, I went home and I went into banking. But I realized after about 3 years, I didn't want to be the MD of any bank. My big plan was to do 5 years of investment banking and then go back to law as a specialist. And the problem just kept playing in my mind. So I developed a matrix. My friend and I, when we're supposed to be working, we used to work like over weekends, and then when we want to take a break, I looked at my skills, remuneration, work-life balance, because I had had a little baby by then. I looked at a number of things, fulfillment, and I decided after 2 years that what I wanted to do was academia. By this time, I was in another bank. The first bank I was in was FCMB. I left. I went to Guarantee Trust. But the dream didn't die, just that it's not that easy to get a job in academia. First of all, I started facilitating at Lagos Business School, their business law class. And then I finally, after about 9 months, I think God did that so that I would appreciate my job. Because the day I got the offer letter, it was a 90% pay cut. And honestly, it shook me. It shook me, but I was determined that I was going to do it. And I had promised my husband, first of all, my husband wouldn't let me quit because he's like, you would be home at 4. We both used to get home at 10 standard. We both had laptops, we'd be talking and da-da-da-da. He's like, you leave work, you'll be home at 4, calling me on the hour, every hour. No, that's not going to happen. Get another job then. So anyway, academia has been great. The reason I chose academia was because I had an agitation about the problem, and I felt I could influence people and learn about it. I also wanted a work-life balance, so there were different reasons why I chose what I chose. Now in academia, it's publish or perish, and you need a doctorate to succeed. So after about 2 years, I had to take another plunge and decide what I was going to do and where I was going to do it. And my family is academic. We have a penchant for degrees from good schools. So I applied to Stanford. And Stanford fees are way. But I got the admission, and the interviewer, I had a phone interview, and he asked me, how are you going to pay the fees? I said, if I have to organize a charity walk, loan me here to Ibadan and get sponsorship, I'll get the fees. And I did get the fees from the support of a lot of people, including my husband sacrificing. We sold land. He came on a cross posting to the US, and I got the degree. Then we came back. Now, people would ask you, what are you going to do now? Now you have this degree from Stanford. And I'm like, I have a job. I teach at University of Lagos. And people would make you doubt or make you feel what you do is, because people ask, oh, are you at Lagos Business School? I'm like, no, I'm at University of Lagos. What are you going to do now that you're back from the US? Going back to my job. I do have a job. I'll tell you later on about the trying times, but believing in yourself is pretty key. There's another confidential thing that I know she's going to come to because somebody almost leaked it to her. I will, once again, do it afraid. I'm already sort of transitioning, but then I said I'll say it myself before
I'm going to definitely ask again. Thank you. Yay. So Cobhams is like my brother. Honestly, I love this man. I'm a bit biased. I love everybody, but I'm a bit biased. I've asked you a million times about your life, but it's nice to finally have you tell everyone your Do It Afraid story.
Okay, I love you back, Tito. Wow, I think I came here to be inspired. Omilola, please don't start having second thoughts about having me on this panel because I'm like, what am I doing here? All right, so seriously, I feel like I was born to do it afraid. I'm only discovering that now. When you're born in the early 80s in the barracks and you're born blind, the first thing that does to you is it strips you of the right to be ambitious. And that's my story. So if I had chosen to go out and stand in front of people's windshields and ask for handouts, people would have excused it as opposed to someone, who could perfectly see and do everything. So I was born to go hard or go home. And if I had gone home, that would have been excused. So let me paint the picture. Born in the barracks, most of my friends who could see perfectly and do everything perfectly, the fate, especially at where I was born to a junior ranking warrant officer, a class 2 warrant officer. Great man, great woman, my parents, but they weren't quite sure what to do with a blind kid. They never had one, and there was certainly not one in the barracks, the part of the barracks where I grew up. Now, for a normal kid, you went through school. If you got lucky, you went to command, the best you could possibly get, which was okay, but it wasn't like KC or Vivian Fowler, any of those, you know what I mean? So, now the fate of the average barrack kid was, you go through secondary school, at least my side, you go through secondary school, you come out, you learn a trade, you become a hairdresser or whatever. I mean, and that's honest work, but at the age of 6, 7, 8, I knew I wanted to be rich. For very stupid reasons. First of all, because I wanted to be able to eat all of the chicken I could afford. Not anything, yeah. But I was ambitious. And I was ambitious because I started to read books at an early age. And I wanted to be one of those people in the books I read. Now, the average kid, like I said, had slim chances. So think about being a young blind kid, whose parents had nothing but love to give you. Anyways, we discovered Pacelli and I went there. And I learned that blind people could be lawyers and journalists and all of that. But that was still not good enough for me. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be a rich music producer. And at the time, and even as I speak, we're working on that, and I'll come to that. I didn't know of any blind music producer in Nigeria. Let's even leave the rich part alone. So when I was 15, a friend of mine was working on an album, and I told him, I can produce your album. By this time, I'd only been in the studio once when I was 12, and I could play, but I'd never produced a thing. And I said to him, I can produce your album. And he said, hey, really? And he went and booked a studio session. That was when the Afraid started. And we were going to the studio, and I didn't know for the life of me how to work a studio. I knew a little bit about musical instrument digital interface, but not working a whole studio. Working a studio is kind of like flying a plane. You're the pilot, you're the captain, sitting down there. You need to understand the terminologies. You need to understand like the technical detail, what everything does. And I said something very simple to myself. I was like, look, music is about doom, ka, doom. So when I go in there, I'll find out what makes the doom, what makes the ka, and I know how to make doom, ka in my head. So I'll work it. Well, I went into the studio with my heart in my mouth. And for the first time, I sat down there and we made 6 tracks in that session. It was... Well, I then got really bold and I told a friend of mine, I told his father I could play the saxophone. I think I was a little too ambitious because then he gave me a saxophone and I stood with the thing and it was quite a contraption. I couldn't figure out how to work it. And so I said to him, you know what, maybe if you blow, I can play the keys. It was the one time when it didn't work for me. But anyways, fast forward to university days. I'd obviously gone through school and was beginning to become one of the characters in the book. I went to King's College. And then I was...
Wow.
And then I was on scholarship to Mercer University in a small town called Macon in Georgia. And at some point that got reviewed and it's still being reviewed to this day. Anyway, we'll get to that. It's a very long story. And so I had to go to Unilag and study law. And go to Unilag and study law I did. Now, by this time, if I may say this myself, and I say it to the glory of God and, with every sense of respect, I was pretty much an A student. I did well with school and all that. But, I went to Unilag and in my 3rd year, I didn't see myself in wig and gown or any of that. I was just like, what, this law thing is not for me. And it wasn't because I had bad grades or anything. Music, by this time, during our holidays, I would go to the studio and make so much music, and I had songs that, as a matter of fact, I had a situation where I'd done this song called "Catch Cold" by Maintain, and my sociology teacher in year 1 was talking about drive and hunger drive and all kinds of drive, and he was talking about cold and how human bodies respond to, and it's like, how many of you have heard this song called "Catch Cold" by Maintain? And I was sitting in the class like I could have said that I did this song, but nobody would believe me in this class. Anyways, in my 3rd year, I realized I wasn't going to sit and do this thing. So I wrote 15 letters to God, all of which I signed Cobham's Emmanuel Asukwo God. Because if I am truly your son and you are truly my father, I'm going to put your name on this letter and you're going to answer me. Because I was afraid. So I quit school with my heart in my mouth in my 3rd year. And decided to pursue music. And I have no regrets ever since. Well, the rest of the story you will come to find out in the course of all of this was, and I wouldn't advise anyone to go out and do this. I don't think that'd be doing it afraid. It'd probably be doing it stupid. But I did it. I started a business without a business plan. And ran it for so many years. And didn't get it to go where I wanted it to go. And then, of course, I had to retrace my steps and all of that. But I'm saying that to say this, that I've spent my whole life doing it afraid. And it's important to strike the difference between doing it afraid and doing it in fear. Because when you do it in fear, fear incapacitates you. Fear takes away your energy, cripples you. Fear is, what people who have been bullied respond to. It's just that thing that makes you not react. But when you do it afraid, you do it with your heart in your mouth, but you do it anyway, and you do it out of passion. So I don't know if that's coherent enough, but that's my story.
Yeah. I think we should just go home now. I don't know if there's anything else there is to say. I think I'm so inspired. I don't even know why I'm here, to be honest. But I'll try to join in and feel among and say a bit about myself. Just a little bit. It's not that amazing, but yeah. I'm Tito Bezidakola, and last year, June, July, I was working in a bank. I was working in FCMB. And I was making good money, but somehow in my spirit, I just felt like I wasn't meant to be there. I felt like I was meant to be more. And I felt I was wasting away. I was floating through my life, and I just thought, why am I here? And my spirit kept telling me, you have to quit. And I was asking God to do what? I didn't have a plan, which is, we'll get to that. And then my brother passed away, and he passed away not doing what he wanted. And that was like a wake-up call for me that, you know what? Either you leave this place now and find your purpose, so that if you die tomorrow, you say you're living your life the way you should be living it. Or you can be here, and then another 20, 30 years, you'll be regretting being here. So I quit my job with no plan. In fact, to be honest, I just literally started finding out why I was created a few months ago. In March, I had a daughter and she passed away, and I didn't understand that either. But when I quit my job, God told me, spend time with me. I'm very spiritual, so I'm sorry. I apologize. Everything I say, God is in it. So, yeah. So God kept saying to me, when I quit my job, he said, just spend time with me. Seek me first, seek me first. So I volunteered in church. I did master life classes. Everybody should do that because that's when I really started building my relationship with God. And then he told me, you have a company called Lighthouse. I thought it was a lighting business. So I started preparing to go to China, which never happened. And then literally after I quit my job, I found out that I was pregnant. I'm like, God, that's not funny. Because if you had told me I was pregnant, I wouldn't have quit my job. I needed the security. My husband is a musician, which is great. But, you know, as Cobhams will tell you, music can be funny. So we needed the secure income, and I didn't have that. So I quit my job. I was pregnant, and I was volunteering in church and doing mastermind. I just wanted to know God more. Then you give birth to the child in March, and then the child passes away. And you're like, okay, so what's the plan now? This is getting ridiculous. And I told God, so this is ridiculous. And he started telling me, write your testimony, share the story with the world. Because even though the child passed away, I was able to stand. I didn't lose my faith at any point. And so I wrote this testimony. And I remember I sent it to Omi. And Omi said, so you have to share it, And she kept saying, do it afraid. I said, Omi, I'm afraid. What are people going to say? I don't want people to think about it. Like, I don't want to be weak. I said, just do it afraid. Just share it. And I did. And honestly, it's amazing how through the worst pain, you build purpose. And that's what happened to me. I did it afraid. I shared that testimony. And it unleashed a whole new world I never expected. And somehow I'm sitting here today with amazing people moderating. And, and you know, I work in the radio station. And when I remember when God said quit, he told me I'm taking to a spacious place. I thought I was going to America. I'm like, okay, Texas is a big place, you know. Yeah, let's do that. That's fine. But the other day, my husband and I were working on my website. It's called mylighthouse.com.ng, just in case you want to check it out. Let me just sell it. And I was like, we're looking for something. I said, oh, wow, the internet is such a spacious place. And I flipped out because I realized I'd written that a long time ago that I was going to a spacious place. What I want to say is this. You might not know it all, but now is the time to start finding your purpose. It might not make sense to you, but take that first step. Do it afraid. And honestly, the first step leads to a million other steps. You'll be shocked at what happens when you decide to just take that one step and do it afraid. And that's my story. So speaking of do it afraid, today's theme is, are you a moth or a butterfly? And Omi keeps explaining this every time. Omi, I'm sure you're going to explain it again, but let me just try. There are many moths. And moths, they're like 100 million species. I probably exaggerated that, but like hundreds of thousands of species of moths. But there are a few species of butterflies. There are very few butterflies. Moths are afraid of the light. They like artificial light. They don't like the real light. Butterflies like to be in the light. They like to show their beauty. Everybody here was once a moth. And now everybody here is a butterfly. And that's what we're going to be discussing. I think everybody in this room has potential to be a butterfly. One of a few people that is bold enough to reach for the stars and follow their dreams. You don't have to be like everybody else. And that's what we'll be discussing, how to get your courage to do it afraid and find your beauty as a butterfly. So that goes to my first question. Okay, Cobham has the mic, so I'll just ask Cobham first. No, it's fine. I'll just ask you first. So, Cobham, you talk about it, and I was a music producer, and I know personally that it's been an interesting journey, and it's been an interesting journey of pain and sometimes second guessing yourself. So I want to ask you, how do you stay motivated when, especially at the beginning, when maybe you decided, okay, I'm quitting school and you're now doing this music business, you're producing and money is not coming. At what point did you decide, you know what, I beg, fashi this music, I'm going to go back to law and just try? Did you ever second guess and decide to go back?
Well, the first thing that made me second guess was actually not money or anything. It was a frustrating engineer I had one time. He frustrated me, and my engineer who left and went to America, and then, of course, I went and joined him and dragged him back to Nigeria, and we're like best of friends, and But when he first went to America, I got this other engineer, clueless, didn't know a thing about it. I'm like, how did this guy land his job? Anyways, he came to the studio one day, and I was recording with him. Then I had my studio in my home, and I left the studio, and I went into my room. I closed the door. I lay on my bed, and I was like, God, is this the time to go back to law? Yeah, so it was actually. But to answer your question, there are many things that, would motivate you or would motivate a person. There are many things that, quite a number of things have motivated me to stay in there even when the money was not coming. The first being the dream. I know I heard something. I know I saw something. I lay on my bed or I sat on a chair, whatever it was I did. But, I would just dream this dream. Like, it was it became me. It was all I wanted to do. Like, as a child, I'd be in the bathroom. And, the bathroom is a place where I get to be a physicist, an astronaut, whatever. And I'd be in the bathroom and I'd be imagining a song that I had created playing on Rick D's Top 40. Like, it stayed with, I held on to it. And, I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, look, everything I am now is everything I dreamed I would be at a certain time in my life. So the thing, and then, the things I will be in future are the things I'm dreaming now. So for me, I think one of my biggest motivation is my dream. I never, ever, ever let go of it. No matter how down I get, I always hold on to it. The other thing is plain and simple, is just God. Because look, there are some times when it's so frustrating and there's no way out. And all you can do is just turn to God and cry. You know what I mean? And we've had times, even in recent times when I would just get into the shower and make the water really hot and just stand there and be like, you almost feel like you're washing off your sins or washing off your problems or whatever it is. But you're just there and you're just crying out and just saying, God, you need to help me out of this one. So, and I find strength from God and motivation, and I find strength and motivation from just holding on to my dream. And of course, getting information, knowing that, look, it's not just holding on to this dream, because the difference between your dream and your reality, with God, of course, is the work that you put into making it happen. And knowing that work may not immediately yield, but at some point it is going to, because there are certain principles that govern the work that you do. And, you don't know these things unless, you get information. So to answer your question, I'd say my dream and definitely God. And then, information. Yeah, these are the things that motivate me. And pacing up and down, of course.
Amazing. Thanks, Cobbs. Thank you. So, yes, your dream and God. I agree. So I want to ask Dr. Ola Orekwe. Ola. She asked me to call her Ola, so it's not like I'm being disrespectful. She really gave me permission.
I don't know if it works.
You started a business that has never, ever, ever been done in Nigeria. How old were you when you started?
I think I was about 23.
Yes, 23. And I don't know, how did you go about actually doing it? I can't imagine not fear, but how much panic and how much you thought, how am I going to do this? But you did it. How did you go about doing this business that has never been done before?
I think the younger you are, the more bold you are. Like when I hang out with my kid cousins, they teach me a lot about business, because when you take a toy away from one of them, They're like, give me the toy back. I want this. When they see something on the TV, they're like, I want this. It's possible for them to get the money to get that spaceship. And they don't care into business because it's really, really hard to leave a bank. I think a bank, like Nigerian banks are like, I grew up by the seaside. So has anybody ever been crabbing before? No, my foster dad used to, that was our hobby. Yeah, when there's no money, you find stuff in the environment to do. So he used to take me to go and catch crabs. When you set like a crab trap, there are loads of crabs that flow into it, and eventually you can get up to 20 crabs in one trap. But why, I've always wondered, when the bait is finished, why do they stay there? And then I watched a crab actually try and get out of that trap. All the crabs in that trap. When that one crab tries to get out, all the crabs will even begin to destroy that crab that is trying to get out, try and pull off its shell, try and do everything that you must stay here as well. We have entered this thing, so you are going to be here with us as well and suffer and be eaten for dinner. That's exactly how a lot of Nigerian society works, I feel. When they see one person trying to escape, they'll even pull the person. So it's really, really hard to actually leave because a lot of people will discourage you. I mean, a lot of, especially, in organizations where there's a lot of consensus. So I really, respect people that are able to break out of that mold. But at 23, what did I know? I was coming to Nigeria, I thought I could start a business. I didn't know how to start a business. If I knew what it took to start a business, then of course I wouldn't have tried it. I would have stayed where I was. So I think that part of doing it afraid is getting in touch with that inner child that saw a spaceship on the TV and said, you know what, I want that spaceship. That child that watches the Disney Channel and thinks, you know what, I can be a princess too. So I think that it was really the facts that I was too young to know better that made me start a business.
Then you got trapped and you couldn't go back to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Jimmy Tara.
I don't know what I'm going to say now. I've had them awesome stuff. But I would say that for me, it's been a very strong sense of purpose. Not to try to sound, but yeah, it's normal purpose. I met a lot of people in the banking industry, and I'm going to say it, that live as if we're in a rat race, like my car is finer than yours, my suit is sharper than yours, my house is bigger than yours. And I'm like, the house is not yours, by the way, all right? If you lose the job today, they collect the house from you. I worked in HR, so I could see, one time in one of the banks, I won't tell you which one now, a guy was leaving and was asked to pay 112 million naira. Yeah, he was asked to pay 112 million. And I said, in all his family and destiny, I'm not sure there's 112 there. And I was a senior manager and all that. I bought a house, I gave them 5 million, they gave me 30 million, But I sat down and said, how much do I owe? And I saw I owe 37.5 million. I wasn't 30 years old. I said, something's wrong with this. So I began to look at things a lot differently. Sometimes people get absorbed in the things that are external at the detriment of what is internal to them and what matters to them. And I began to think about it again in the light of purpose, about the fact that, I started feeling responsible to talk to them. So at my office, you'll find me, people will come to my desk before 8 o'clock, 10 people, I'll be talking to them in the morning. We can't remain here. There's greatness inside us. 5 o'clock, they will come back. Let's continue. That continued for a couple of years and all that. And then after a while, I stopped taking my laptop home on Fridays. I said, work remains at work. Saturdays, I would travel anywhere that I was invited. For free, I could even pay to speak. All right, just to give expression to what I had inside of me. And that began to grow. And so one day I came home with a hamper. One day I came home with some money. All right, okay, it's not bad. Then I now met people like Fela Dotoe, Larry Lushola, and they'll tell me, one day Fela said, who am I that God will give me something, I don't mention normal plot of land by the beachfront. I said, from speaking, I will speak. And that's power of association also. So first, it's a sense of purpose. I'm a pastor at church. I knew that God clearly spoke to me about it and said he wanted me to make that transition. And so for me, it began to boil down disobedience. And I found out you can live a disobedient life. Yeah. You can. It's a choice. But I didn't want to do that. So I decided to flow with it. And I said, if you would take me through this, I will follow you. and I know you will take care of me. All right? And he has taken care of me. So that association has helped and information.
Amazing. I feel like I'm just inspired. And I'm sorry, sometimes I'm tempted to call her Auntie Jumoke because really, But Dr.
Fake mentee.
Dr. Odewale, you were in banking, comfortable, and then you went into academia, University of Lagos. Please, how did you not reconsider? Because I'm sure getting a 90% pay cut was not easy. How did you keep going?
So I've never regretted it, not for one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll say the same thing.
And the reason is you have to know who you are and what you want. And then you don't live your life by someone else's clock. It's a Yoruba adage. Yes. So if you look at yourself in terms of material possessions, you'll just be miserable. There will always be someone, with more.
True.
And really, we're more than that. Someone said earlier about sacrifices. You have to choose what is important to you in life. When I was in banking, I had more of an income. But in academia, very limited income. But I live within my means. You wouldn't find me, by nature, buying jewelry, a lot of ashwabi. People don't even just come to me. There's some things that people don't even come to me with. I'm solitary. I like people. I have friends. But my friends know that sometimes they won't see me 6 weeks. I'm on the ivory tower. I'm writing a paper. That's the code for I've just disappeared. I'm happy in my world. And my world is impact matters. Impact matters. So a lot of things fall by the wayside when you have a sense of purpose, when failure is not an option and you're driven from within. You wake up and you charge like an eagle towards the sunlight because there's something that you're focusing on. And so the intensity of your life, the association really matters. Who you move with, because there are dream stealers, dream killers, frenemies. You have to encourage yourself in the Lord yourself. You have to believe in yourself and believe in your own dream. Everybody here, I think we're all saying the same thing because the walk is the same. The butterfly walk is the same. But we must not believe the hype or not let the hype get to you. I love what Kobam just said about he's living the dream, but he has dreams now for tomorrow. Because that is, we're supposed to live and then die empty. So it's nothing about I've arrived. You have not. The minute you begin to think you've arrived, you're dead. Yeah. Why are you here if you've arrived? Yeah. Why are you here if you've arrived?
It's amazing. That's
so,
amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you read everything that needs to be said. I don't know what else can be said at this point. But I agree about living within your means. Because when I quit FCMB, I was earning. I was young. I didn't really need that much, but my salary was okay. And I would shop at places. I used to shop at Le Presserie a lot, and their prices were crazy. But to me, it made sense because I could afford it. The moment I quit my job and I was looking at my account, go to Marketo, look for the best option. It's so true. You don't have to live like everybody else. A lot of my friends, for example, they can afford Chanel bags, Hermes, everything. I can't, and that's fine. Because that's not what drives me. I want more. And one day I'm sure I'll be able to afford it because I like nice things. But that's not what drives me. And I think that's one thing everybody needs to understand. Once you know what your purpose is, once you know what you're living for, and I live for God as well, what everybody else is doing doesn't matter. You stay focused on what your own dream is, what your own purpose is, what you've been created to do. And that way you don't regret anything. You don't ever doubt that you get where you're supposed to go to. But I still have more questions.
Before you move on, I want to, before I forget, the lecturer and me just can't let it go. It's good to have dreams. I think so. No. It was the video when I walked in, the video was playing. The spirit of excellence, hard work, dedication, tested skills, experience. The video was talking about when you see people shining, you don't see the hours and years and effort and sweat and blood and tears and everybody. My husband always says success has many friends, because when I'm still learning peanuts, but when it was a wilderness time and people did not see my choice as success, you'll be despised. You'll be looked down on. You'll be one of the downtrodden. Nobody would buy your vision. You have to really, that is actually the time to hone your skills. Mm-hmm. Because you're in a cover. It is strategically fantastic to be underestimated. I've been underestimated for my looks. I've been underestimated for what I don't have, my car, The more you underestimate me, you empower me, because when I open my mouth, when I arrive, you can't see me coming. I just arrive, and you're like, oh my gosh.
How did she get here?
Hello people, it's your girl Mercy Chuma, and yes, it's my first time here in Kairos Hub, and I must say that this place is a cool place to be in for your events, for your wedding, for your anniversary, your album launch. Come to Kairos Hub.
Fantastic ambience, fantastic environment, fantastic people.
I love their sound, I love the ambience. It's easy to worship. I don't know what it is with the environment, but it's just pretty easy to worship.
I bring to you Kairos Hub, your best event center to hold any event you want to hold. I said so.
How do you move on to executing it? Because we can say do it afraid, do it afraid, do it afraid, but how do you take that first step? How do you execute your dream? I think I want to ask Jimmy first.
Okay, I was hoping that you will get this
No,
right.
I don't know. You look like you're ready for that question. You looked ready, so
Okay,
yeah.
I like to, and sorry if I refer to banking, I'm very, if you're a banker here, don't let me get into that, okay, sorry. But what do you need to do? I think you need to start somewhere, start small. Usually when you get a little success, it spurs you on to the next one. So like I said, I was working, and weekends I'll go to Akure, drive all the way there. I would meet 4 people. I would speak to them like they're 40,000. All right? I would do all of that. And then people would send me a mail, what you said, helped me, and that validated what I carried. Many people, what they simply lack is validation. When we watch Project Fame and we see the interesting part is the part that people mess up, right? But somebody validated them before they stepped up on that stage. That's the reality about it, right? So you need validation, and validation will not come until you take action. So run a pilot of what you want to do. Start small, do something, all right? And start clocking in the hours. I can't imagine, I was listening to a song I listened to by Gloria Berma and Cobhams, right? And I was listening to, I studied Greek, but I like music. So I don't understand it, but I understand something about it. And I tell my people in the choir, I say, look, if you think about how many hours went into, it's not just the time in the studio, the hours before. So I might be a public speaker today, but there are many hours I probably can't even remember. Clock in the hours now. Start investing in that. Now, I tell people, if you earn a salary, a portion of your salary should be invested in your future. That's the mistake. As if you are still buying clothes, you are still buying shoes, and I have a dream. It's a nightmare if you're not careful. You understand? So yeah, start doing something about it. Invest in it. Go study something. Pay for something. It's so important to begin to do. I believe that once you start doing those things, it'll help. Then the power of association. I think it speeds things up a lot. It makes it easier for you to take steps. All right? So find people that are doing something related to what you're doing or exactly what you're doing. Go and volunteer. Those days, FD will call me and say, Jimmy, come and do something. I will be there. Mr. Nia, this one will call me. I will be there. All of those things built into what I'm doing today. I'm sure there's a lot more, but those are the things that come to my mind right away.
Okay, so let me ask her then. So you have a dream. You had a dream, for example. What was the first step you took? So you came to Nigeria. I want to start the first company. What did you do first? How did you start?
I started, I really believe what you just said. A portion of your salary should always be invested in your future. So I was saving a lot of my salary.
Well, Ola, sorry, just to interrupt quickly. That wasn't cheap. What you started wasn't cheap. So
of course, but everybody says, oh, you must have had some godfather or some father. Let me be honest with you, right? My dad has a church. I think there's about 25 people in it. So they don't give huge tithes and offering. They're not 25 rich people. So honestly, I had a job and I saved most of my income. And I still after my company has turned over millions and millions of dollars, you can still see that I'm a pretty simple person. I still look at a pair of shoes, and if it's over £50, I probably won't buy the shoes. If the journey is less than 6 hours, I probably won't fly business class. If I'm going to Abuja, I will definitely not fly business class. And it's just those habits that I picked up during my hustling days when I was walking from my hospital in Tokyo, which was an hour and a half from my home, and I was living in a room with 8 people. I had the salary, obviously, to have my own place. But I thought, you know what, I can stay with it in a bunk bed with 10 other people in the room, and we all share the shower, and we have 15-minute slots that we can use the shower. If I can save my money and put it towards my business, which I was doing. And I was a doctor, and my friends at that time had gone to go and get loans, and they were driving Ferraris, and I was thinking, I really, really have a dream. I'd really like to return to Africa, and I'd really like to start a business. So honestly, there was no big money. I started the business. I came to Nigeria with the money I had, which very quickly ran out. But by that time, I'd built relationships. I knew what the industry was like, and I could get contracts, I could get agreements signed, and use that to fund my business. And also, it's a cash business for me, so I was evacuating. I was taking money up front from insurance companies. I was taking big money up front from insurance companies and delivering the service. So we always had cash in the bank. And I really honestly believe that your background doesn't determine your destiny.
It's amazing.
I really, really honestly believe that. And I wrote an article on it, actually. It's called Rich Kid, Poor Kid. It's on LinkedIn. I think Omilola also shared it on her blog. And it's basically talking about when I went to President Buhari's inauguration, and there was a guy, we were watching DJ Copy play, and there was a guy next to me that said, you know what, the more I see this girl, the more I get disappointed in my father. And I looked at him and I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, so where was my father when this guy was building an oil company? I could have been the official anything for this event. And it made me really think about the relationships between background and destiny. But for me, obviously, that didn't come to pass. I was the first person. I was the first doctor in my family. There were no other doctors before I studied medicine. And in a lot of other ways, I think me and my sister have been trailblazers in our family. And you can always be the first. And I think that Nigeria, even with its difficulties, is also a society where relationships matter a lot. If you went to somewhere like Unilag, if you went to somewhere like KC, if you went to somewhere like Olashore, OAU, then you can come back and at least know people that work in PwC, you know people that are commissioners for state, you know a few people, you have a power base. So when you're building a business, always start from your power base. You know somebody. You might not think that you know somebody, but you know somebody. I had one uncle when I came back. I went to him. He gave me letters to take to 5 people. I got on the night bus to, one of them was in Abuja, I got on the night bus. I'd never taken the night bus in Nigeria before. I got on the night bus because I was trying to save money at that time. I got on the night bus, I went to Abuja, I presented the letter. He said, oh, when's your flight back? I said, well, it's at 3 o'clock, sir. I'm flying back. He didn't know I was taking the night bus back at that time, but he did introduce me to a few more people. So you can always grow your power base by leveraging on your own network. And I think that's really important. And if you went to one of these big schools, then it's really, really an advantage. I went to university in England, huge disadvantage. Unilag, OAU, University of Nigeria. That's where you get the connections. Because somebody in your class will be a commissioner. Go and find that person.
Amazing. Okay, so Dr. Jumoke, you moving careers, it wasn't so much about, you didn't need that much funding, but you probably needed a lot more in terms of preparation, applying for the job. How much work did you have to put in to convince them that you could do the job?
Not much.
Really?
Yeah, not much. I mean, I went to University of Lagos.
So it was already
I was a top student.
Yeah.
My lecturers were delighted to have me back. Yes.
Amazing.
My peers maybe are like, who on earth is this girl? My mom was registrar, so they underestimated me. They thought I got the job because
you knew someone.
Yeah, but I didn't. My mom didn't get me into Cambridge. So, but it's yourself. Somebody here mentioned, I think it was Cobhams, about the critic within, or was it the movie again? The critic within is as strong, if not stronger, than other people criticizing you. So you have to, first of all, settle that matter with yourself, whether you have the skills or not. It wasn't easy leaving banking. I told you 2 years on the matrix of thinking through, because I didn't just wake up and decide academia. I was thinking about different sectors, my skill set, my personality. So when I finally settled on academia, what I did decide was I don't really like being average in whatever I do. I just don't really like it. I think I might as well be very good at what I do. So the difference is you can really coast in academia. You can really coast for years. Nobody would really force you to publish or to publish internationally. I mean, now, with all sense of modesty, I'm reasonably well known internationally in my field. That's why I got the visiting professorship. I speak a lot at conferences internationally, and it didn't come automatically. There were times my whole salary would go towards buying a ticket to go for a conference. My husband, I cannot emphasize association. The person you marry, those of you that are still single, it's so important. It can make or break that quest for your destiny. So my husband, it's a matter of fighting. The pushing was I'm not ready for this. You are ready for this. You need to do this because we've invested in, family resources have gone into Stanford, then you're coming and saying you don't want to do. So we talked through and we compromised. But family resources were invested in my career. And that's another thing about sacrifice. A lot of people say, oh, it's because your husband is blah, 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 blah. We're comfortable, but it's not like we're rich. We haven't changed our cars in how many years? We don't do flash. We just sacrifice and do what it is our focus is. So really, I think focus is everything, truly, because it helps you be okay, like not having that Chanel bag or not, you don't look left or right.
Yeah,
so
just keep staying.
Yeah.
There was something you said, Dr. Odewale. You mentioned the spirit of excellence, and Cobhams, wasn't it a few months ago you were in, where did you perform? And you had pictures with Bono and all these amazing people. And I just want to ask you, when you're thinking about recording music, when you're thinking about what you do, who do you compare yourself to anybody? Do you just keep going? That spirit of excellence, how do you apply it to your life?
Yeah, well, so this is it. As you were asking that question, I was just thinking. So there is the spirit of whoever it is you compare yourself to, and then the spirit of excellence. So when you compare yourself to anybody, the best you are, the best you can be, is that person. That's, because there's a ceiling right there. When your ceiling is excellence, then it means you're going past everything, every person, everything, including the things that have encouraged you and have shaped you, because even those things, those people have, other people who encouraged them and shaped them, but they came and they broke that record and they broke that ceiling. So when it's the spirit of excellence, you just keep going. The spirit of excellence is the spirit of God, and there is no man like God. So you just keep going. You keep, and even the Bible says it. The Bible encourages us to be perfect, even as our Heavenly Father is perfect. So is that perfection of God that you strive for. And I think for me, that's what it is. Every time I make music, till this day, I'm nervous before I start. Like I'm nervous while I'm doing it. At a point, I'm like, you know what, God, you're the cheat mode in this thing. And activate on time, because I know I'm going to run out of ideas if we continue. Because I'm never satisfied. And my Ojola caught me which day listening to something I'd worked on a long time ago. She's like, I'm talking to you, you're listening to your work. And I'm like, yeah, because even after we put it out, I still critique it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, is it the best, it can possibly be? So yeah, the spirit of excellence for me is the spirit of God. And I just wanted to put something out there, in relation to doing it afraid. One of the biggest enemies of doing it afraid is this. I'm not sure if there's an actual English word, like this, but it's realism. And what realism is what is sold to be your reality. You know what I mean? It's the one thing, it's the cards on the table. Realistically, what cannot happen. When I was opening, and sorry I'm going off on a different tangent, but it just, when I was going to do my first studio outside of my house, I was in Paris working on an album project, and my friend called me. I was like, hey, this space just came up, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, tell the landlord I'm coming to pay for it. I didn't have a dime in my account. And when I came into Nigeria, I got a job for the exact amount I needed to do to make the payments and change. And I had never, until that time, been paid that much to do a project. You know what I mean? So I came in. I got it. I went ahead and I did it. And, I was there for a while. And then I needed to move to this other place. And it was going to cost me 3 million. I was like, hey, God, how am I going to raise 3 million now? And we started, I was talking, doing work, chasing people. If you're in my business in Nigeria, you chase a lot of people for your money. Like, you chase people. You know what I mean? And so I was doing that. And as at the time I was going to, and I don't know, I mean, not everybody has the faith, for this, but this is me and this is my story and this is me doing it afraid. I actually gave the guy the check for 3 million before I had 3 million. And he was going to present the check and, all of that. And he was complaining, look, if this check, blah, 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 blah. I think he actually went ahead and presented the check. And I was like, look, you gave me a rubber check. And I was like, by the time he was telling me that, I had 3 million cash in my car and I was driving to his office. And I'm like, no, you give me. I'm like, no, take your money. Don't worry, have your money. But the funny thing was, the next year, I was signing the check for 3 million to pay for the space. I was having a mundane, regular conversation with somebody when I had finished signing it, and my secretary was taking the check away. I was like, wait a minute, stop there. I just signed a 3 million naira check without even thinking about it. You know what I mean? I wasn't even thinking. It just happened. That's when you understand that sometimes all you need to do is you take that step, get up, go out. There are people who have dreams bigger than yours. The thing is, you make the effort to take that first step and apply a lot of all the things you've heard here today. Association, information, those things can never be overemphasized. So you apply all those things, and then you just kind of, I've gone on such a tangent. I've even forgotten the question.
I'm like, I forgot as well. But the amazing thing, and Cobhams, I always do this. We always, like, every time I'm with you, I always ask questions because I'm always learning, and it's a real honor for me to even be here on this stage with all these amazing, inspiring people. Can I call you Auntie? Doctor. Okay, Dr. Odewale, I want to ask, you went into a field that a lot of people underestimated, but now you have an appointment that is going to show that, let me tell you the truth there. I once heard El Nightingale, that's his name, El Nightingale. He said, whatever you choose to do it well. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a teacher, be the best teacher you can ever be. If you're going to be a housewife, there's nothing wrong with it. Just do it amazingly well. Don't compare yourself to anybody. And that's the story with Dr. Odewale, because she chose to go into a career that was underestimated, but now it's taking her to places that I'm sure you imagined it, but now it's happening. Can you?
So I told all of you that my parents are in academia. Well, my father is a professor, he's retired now, and my mom was registrar, also retired. So when I sat them down, it was actually a casual conversation. Oh, I want to leave banking. My mom was like, why on earth do you want to leave banking? You're doing so well. Why do you want to come here? You know, there's a lot of, she felt I was coming into a small space. There can be bickering, politics, all that. With her there, my father had also been there. My father said, you can win the Nobel Prize.
Amazing.
So, and it was just a casual conversation. We just had it, and he's just like, you can win the Nobel Prize. Of course, coming to academia, that's fantastic. It's a beautiful life, as you know. We're here, we're happy. And so what you hear and what you believe and what you hold on to is everything. Some people mean well, but the fear, what they say. I was reading something this morning about David when he went to visit his brothers at the battlefront, and he took them, whatever it was his dad asked him to take them. When he wanted to, he was like, okay, so what's going to happen to Goliath, this guy that is defiling the living God? His brother was furious. His oldest brother became furious. His brother must have loved him. But he became furious. You're so arrogant. You young boy, everybody here is scared. And you think, why on earth do you think? I was telling Bola Tito just earlier today. She says, oh, I'm so nervous. I've never done this before. I said, if you're not nervous, I'll be worried.
Yeah.
That adrenaline is what keeps you at the cutting edge. Cobhams just said it, and this is after years of experience. If I'm not nervous, if I'm not thinking about any assignment I'm going to do, then I know that I would just postpone, because I know beforehand that failure is just not an option. So if it means waking up at 4, you have to prepare. What was the question?
What's the appointment? I want to know this.
You can't know the appointment because it's still confidential.
Okay, but give us something. Let's just know where your dreams can take you when you dream.
Okay, let me tell you where your dreams can take you. My inaugural lecture in the Netherlands was attended by the Queen of the Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
So that's where your dreams can take you. The Queen, the mayor of the city, they were all there to listen to me. Before I started writing the inaugural lecture, I was like, what am I going to say to such an audience? Professors, there must have been at least 20 Dutch professors in procession. But it's a beautiful story because my parents came. My father, as you now know, is a professor. And my father roped with the procession. And the deputy vice chancellor of my university came because when he saw the invitation card, they knew that this is important. If the queen of the country is going to attend, surely this is important. So that's where your dream can take you.
That's amazing.
Anywhere.
That's amazing.
Anywhere.
You mentioned standing in front of all these amazing people and speaking. And Jimmy, I was going to ask you, are there times when you feel you're not the right candidate? Do you feel I shouldn't be here? What am I doing here? And how do you conquer that fear?
Feeling. Maybe I don't feel like that sometimes on the stage right now. But how do I conquer that? I have a cheat mode, like Cobham says. I say, Holy Spirit, it's a tag team. Let's do this together. So, and it's never disappointed me. So I don't think it's going to start tomorrow. Honestly. All right? Yes, you've had exposure, but you still get to that point where every time you stand to speak, something tells you that, how will it come out and stuff like that. You're practicing, you wake up 3 a.m., you're, thinking about it in your mind and all. And I think it actually keeps you on your toes to deliver the best. You understand? So I think people have they don't have a healthy understanding of how to handle those feelings. You know, they think that because I'm feeling afraid, then I'm afraid. No, it's anticipation of something great, all right? So you just direct it to say, okay, how do I do it very well? I tell myself, I will do it. How I do it, I don't know, but I will do it, okay? And you now begin to walk towards that. So I think for me, the Holy Spirit helps a lot. Sometimes I remember my past. You did this one, you did this one. You will come out alive at least, all right?
Exactly, you won't die. And I always say, what's the worst thing that can happen? Someone's like, oh, I'm so afraid. I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You die, go to heaven.
Let me interrupt you, Tito. Okay. Just as Uncle Jimmy was speaking, it came to me.
Uncle, I apologize.
That's my new name for you, sir. I always give people names, just so you know. So as we were speaking, it came to me, how do you conquer the fear of going up and doing it? I guess one thing that works for me is step back and think that if the time to do it came and you didn't do it, and you saw someone else do it and they didn't do it well, right? You would get out of that place and regret not taking the chance to do it.
Yes.
I know that has happened to me so many times. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say this. I was invited to do a TED Talk. And God knows I spent the entire month running away from it. I didn't want to do it. And my wife was like, this is your life story. Go up there and share the thing. And I was like, no. As a matter of fact, I think 2 days or so before the thing, I was going to call in sick. I was ready to do anything to just run away from. Like, why do these guys think that I will come and talk to? Do you know the people who have Chimamanda? No. We're not doing this. You know. But then I kept thinking, and I'm like, look, when you're in the bathroom, you say these things to yourself. Are you going to tell me that you're not going to let this opportunity pass, and you, being who you are, you'll regret not having taken the chance to share your life story, to impact someone, you know what I mean, to get someone to do what you're doing or even do better. And then, the other thing I think that helps, I don't know if it totally, helps you conquer, but it definitely helps, is being prepared. Do whatever you can do to be prepared. Squeeze a golf ball, read your notes, God knows how many times. Do whatever you can do to be prepared. And when I was going for that TED Talk, even though ordinarily I would just come out and speak, I had notes. I had to employ my wife as my speechwriter. Because Ojola is an amazing writer. She came in there, we sat down and, after everything, like I read my notes, I don't know how many times on the plane when I got to the hotel room. I knew what I was going to say, but I didn't want to, feel unprepared. So I kept going through my notes and going. So one thing that would definitely help you, it won't totally take away the nerves, but it would help you be coherent. It would help you make sense, and that's be prepared.
I think I once read somewhere that success is when preparation meets opportunity. And that's really the truth. Like, you can say you want to do it afraid, but what research have you done? What reading have you done? Who have you spoken to? What have you actually tried to achieve your dreams? Saying it is not enough. You have to actually take actions to do it. And speaking of being prepared, Ola, you're young. I can imagine that you went to some pretty... I'm sorry I keep saying the young thing, but I'm trying to make a point here, because some people think they're too young to follow their dreams. I can imagine that you're in the room with some mature people, and I can imagine you'd face some discrimination, people thinking you don't know what you're saying, for example. But I'm guessing you were prepared enough. How did you handle that when people would discriminate against you, thinking you couldn't achieve what it is you set out to achieve?
I think there's 3 main things that really, really freak people out. And those were the 3 main things that used to freak me out.
Okay.
First of all, I hate being embarrassed. Like, I used to hate being embarrassed. But now I realize that embarrassment is part of it. So no matter how much you prepare, sometimes you're going to mess up your line. Sometimes the presentation is going to not go well. Sometimes somebody is going to misunderstand you. That's part of, moving forward. Those are the things that we're afraid of, things going wrong. And I think one of the points that I want to make is that doing it afraid doesn't mean that things aren't going to go wrong, but it's about embracing those embarrassments as learning points. You're going to fail, and I can't tell you how many times when you're doing it afraid that failure will come. And I failed a lot of times, but I've learned to see failure as a great thing. I think that failure, you don't learn anything from success. I mean, success is such a lousy teacher. I have so many awards in my office, and I didn't learn anything from any of those awards. I didn't learn anything from being on CNN. I didn't learn anything from giving my TED Talk. I learned it when I failed, woefully.
Amazing.
So a big part of doing it afraid is learning to be able to take failure, embrace it, and move on from it. Being able to take embarrassment, embrace it, and move on from it. And also, I think when I first started my business, I also valued consistency. I loved consistent people. That guy said it in the 80s, he's saying it today. He's the correct guy. And now I realize that as time has gone on, the way I value people that are consistent has actually decreased, because I realize that there's also a lot of value in changing your mind. And there's nothing wrong with that. If in 1995 you believed that blue was the best color and now you believe that red is the best color, it means that you're learning, it means that you're growing, it means that you're speaking to different people, and it means that you're able to appreciate other people's points of view. And I think that that's a great thing. So never be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of embarrassment. Don't be afraid to change your mind. It's all part of doing it afraid as well.
Hello people, it's your girl Mercy Chuma, and yes, it's my first time here in Kairos Hub, and I must say that this place is a cool place to be in for your events, for your wedding, for your anniversary, your album launch. Come to Kairos Hub.
Fantastic ambience, fantastic environment, fantastic people.
I love their sound. I love the ambience. It's easy to worship. I don't know what it is with the environment, but it's just pretty easy to worship.
I bring to you Kairos Hub, your best event center to hold any event you want to hold. I said so.
When Ola mentioned about failing, there's something called failing forward. If you fail, it doesn't mean you should just go back to what you were doing before or just stop. You can learn something and then do it better the next time. Also, when you think you're going to follow your dreams and do it afraid, chances are things will definitely go wrong, as I'm sure everybody here has witnessed. And I want to ask Jimmy, Uncle Jimmy, as Kobam now calls you, have you ever done it afraid and then you failed? Has it happened to you before? What did you do? How did you get back on track?
All right. So I left banking in 2010, September 8th. I had this business plan that was going to deliver 22 million naira profit per annum. You can see the way I'm quoting it, all right? I was too sure. I mean, if I made it, I cut it down. I was like, it could do better, but, you know, it failed really bad. Bad. You have no clue. At that time, my wife, we were trying to work on a couple of things for her, our own dreams and ideas. So the two of us were not the paid employment. And so I moved from 20,000 naira per month to 0 naira per month. And there will be days that the only thing we had at home was Indomie noodles. And thankfully, we have two kids. And the days will be like, it's Indomie and carrots. Hey, see, one reason why you must do it afraid early. If your children are old, they will question you. They say, Indomie and carrots, what's that, right? Just to also say something about what you said, about, getting married right, that it's huge. I didn't mismarry. That I can tell you. My wife is here. She supported every step. My wife never said, why did you even leave that banking job? It has never, ever come out of her mouth. There have been times that have been tough, and I have to, encourage and all that, but she's been there, right? And so it was hard. And what I had to do was to look out for other opportunities. Sometimes your dream is so powerful, you don't see other opportunities. And at that time, I had capabilities that I wasn't using. I was head of recruitment before. I'd done training. I'd done so many things. My big break came one day. One fella called me and says, "Hey, Jimmy, we're doing a training with Access Bank. Would you like to be part of the facilitators?" I did not know that was a miracle. All right? So I began to do training, and I began to grow. Then there's another gentleman. His name is Nia Adesoya. And then I met him one day. We had a discussion. He led to a training program, and then I made $3 million in 2 weeks. I was like, okay. Wow. So, and that began, and that's how things began to change gradually. So sometimes, when things are not working, there's not only one way to where you're going to. So you might need to be flexible, all right? You don't have to compromise your destination, but you might need to alter, the path towards that destination. So that's something I wanted to share.
That's amazing. Thank you. Are there any questions? Do I have any questions? Tell me no so I can keep asking my own questions. No? Okay, fine. If you insist. The amazing Larry Olushola is here. Good morning. Welcome, sir. Good afternoon. He's going to be taking over in a few. To Dr. Jumoke Odewale, what happens if your husband wants you to return to the corporate world and not follow my dream and do it afraid? What happens then? Sorry, let me just finish. I'm sorry about this. I feel really bad for you, actually. Not in a bad way. He's my dream killer, and you said association is very important. What do I do?
Yeah, okay.
That's sad. I'm sorry.
Wait.
That's really hard.
Don't be sorry yet.
Okay.
Don't be sorry yet. The reason I say don't be sorry yet is, remember I talked about my husband pushing me hard. So I'll tell you, and I hope this will encourage you. So my husband is very astute. He studies people. He understands people. More mature than me. And sometimes he gives an opinion that I don't want, accept. I fight back. And he then ends up being right. He says I say this in public and I don't tell him at home. I started telling him at home. Now I've grown. So I just say, thank you. Like if I bounce an idea of him and he's like, that draft, that's a good first draft, but you can do better. Before, the lawyer and me, I would have argued, I researched, I wrote, do you know how much time I spent? This is it, that's the point they want. Now I just say, oh, thanks. Thanks so much for taking the time to read it. You have to negotiate the space. You have to, if you are convinced that your dream is sound, you convince your husband when he sees the consistency. He married you because he loves you. You married him because you love him. You can't just insist he's my dream killer because he doesn't see. You have to help him to see. There was a point during my doctorate. I told you how I got to have a burden for international economic law from Cambridge field trip. There was a time during my doctorate that my husband was like, doctorates are really hard and they're frustrating midway, your advisor, this, that, the other. And he's like, why don't you switch to energy? Something with fossils, something biochemicals. You're coming to Houston and then we're going back to Lagos. Oil. And I said, it was not one fight or one conversation. I said, my spirit resists oil and gas. My spirit actually resists oil and gas. I'm not kidding. Because I feel Nigeria, our oil exports are 95%, and look at the trouble we're in now. Our non-oil exports are only 5% of our foreign exchange revenue. So something about me from very early on has resisted that. You have to discuss, negotiate. I also told you that he didn't let me quit my job till I got another job because, and these are not light things. I'm saying them here with a big smile. These were months of, I'm tired of this banking job, I need to quit. Sorry, you can't quit. Get another job, then I know you're serious and you're going to quit. It's just a matter of negotiating space, convincing him that you're serious. He's asked me before, so what exactly are your skills? And I'll say, I write well, I speak well. And he's like, those aren't skills. Everybody's supposed to have that. What exactly are the skills that you're bringing to the table? And look at me today. Now he knows I write well, I speak well. And so it's not a deal breaker at all. Don't be discouraged.
Okay, so another question quickly. How do you get close or learn from someone who is doing exactly or a similar thing to what you want to do without making them feel you want to steal their shine? No, Uncle Jimmy, you please.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all right. I think you can learn where there's materials to read from. You can learn by observation also. We're in an industry. I mean, this is my boss here, Uncle Larry. And but thankfully, it's an open one where people can learn from. I mean, some industries people are like, "I'm going to copy my idea." You're not going to. This is the thing that is there. All you can learn there. What you can learn, try to observe from afar. You'll make some assumptions. You'll make some mistakes. All right. I believe that we're at a time where there's so much information available online. Am I right? Am I right? Yeah, so there's so much. You don't have to learn from somebody that is in Nigeria. Trust me, okay? Yeah. So you can learn from somebody online. There's so much information available. But there's a way that you can serve somebody that there's no how you will learn what it is that they know. And that is another route. And so I ask people to volunteer and serve people. Even if they're not going to pay you something, it's fine. What you will get, nobody can take away from you. All right, so those are the things. So, for example, like I said, it was Denny, Adesonya, Felado, people like that. I would go and I would support, and as they're speaking, how did they speak? How did they move? What are they doing? How are people responding? All those things are the things that built into what I'm doing today. Is that okay? Yeah. All right, so I think,
So I'm going to take one more question.
Can I just add something to that real quick? So it's important for you to actually evaluate also and ask yourself, are you the one feeling like they would be bothered that you're stealing their ideas?
Yeah.
Or are they actually giving you the vibe? Because if truly this person is giving you the vibe that, you know, they're not comfortable with you stealing their ideas, then it means that even if at all you're going to learn anything from that person, you need to learn one thing, and that's to check insecurity, you know, in yourself. Yeah. Otherwise, it might be one of the many terrible things you'd learn from that person, which might in effect mean that that's not a good person to learn from. So you need to check that situation also.
Okay, so unfortunately, it's almost time for us to go. But I'm going to ask one last question. And it says, if you have more than one idea, everybody's saying focus on one main idea, focus. But I think Uncle Jimmy had already mentioned it. In terms of even though you have an idea, you can still look at other opportunities. But what this person wants to know is how do you bring, is it possible to bring more than one idea together? And how are you able to do that? Ola, do you want to...
I have one idea, but I really admire people that are able to do loads of different things. So when I go to business conferences and they say, just focus on one thing and do one thing, I'm like, but there's plenty of entrepreneurs that do 1,000 things and do them well. I just, every day I seem to find out another business that Dangote does. And he seems to be able to manage all of them very well. I thought it was a cement business. Now I'm learning about the juice business. There's an oil and gas business. There's a refinery business. There's a salt business. There's a sugar business. And he manages. And Richard Branson is probably the international version of him. I mean, he has over 200 companies and he manages all of them across a really diverse range. So if you don't feel like you're made to focus, then don't focus. Do everything. Try and do as much as you believe that you have the potential to do. I do one thing that I feel that I'm very, very good at. But I always really, really admire people that can do, 3 or 4 things at once and do them well. And I don't think there's any reason why, if you feel that that's what you're supposed to be doing, and why can't you run both of them at the same time? I mean, I know plenty of Nigerian musicians that still do some corporate work, do some consulting. I know that there's a few Nigerian musicians who are learning how to shoot videos, who are doing videography as well as singing or acting. So there's loads of things, and they don't even have to be related. I think it's so cool when people can do more than one thing at the time. So I don't think you necessarily have to focus on, if you believe that you're gifted in 5 areas, why not be the next? What's that? The guy that acted Ray Charles, that does the singing and acting.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, why not be the next Jamie Foxx and do everything?
I agree.
Can I just chip in something? Sorry, I'm interjecting. I'm not going to steal your show.
No, my show is yours.
Yes, so I was just going to say that sometimes, and this is from experience, sometimes you can do many things, but certain things are for certain seasons in your life. Mm-hmm. And it's important for you to know I have musician friends who have kept themselves by making jewelry while they were trying to make the music work. You might get to a point where you eventually make money from music, because music money is like football money, is like drug money, it never really comes and stays. You've got to know that there's a season, and as you're coming out of that season, you ought to have made certain decisions, wise decisions, how to invest your money. So it might be, you might have a thing for hospitality, or you might have a thing for jewelry making, or whatever it is, and you can then go into that business because it's something you're passionate about. It's something you're also going to thrive, in. So sometimes certain things are for certain seasons. It might be your bread and butter to keep you going. I've always wanted to be a performer, but for a while I kind of ran away from it, and I produced my way to sort of building a name, and then I'm using that to help my performing career. And then, even as a producer, I always wanted to make music for artists, but at the point I realized I wasn't making a lot of money because a lot of the artists themselves weren't making that much money themselves. So I started to cut commercials, and I made, a ton of money cutting commercials. So whether it's MTN or it's GTB or whoever it is, I put my voice and my music on it. And I've been able to use that to survive and kind of find my feet and then decide, okay, so this is really what I want to do to gain fulfillment from, because now I can breathe and I can see clearly, because hunger is no longer my, my first priority to deal with. So I would say, there are many things you can do, but then sometimes, at all times, think of the big picture. A lot of those things actually connect to your big picture. So whether Dangote does, for instance, refinery or oil or cement or whatever it is, at the end of the day, he's a businessman. You know what I mean? On top of everything else. So, what is your big picture? And as you go through life doing the thing, we say do it afraid. Do it afraid, but don't be afraid. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and try and find out what your big picture is. So try Ola said, try the many different things that you know how to do. And, you will land on that one thing, if there is a one thing for you. But they will all come together and they will all help you, as long as you're passionate about them and someone's not leading you in the wrong direction, like they do with a lot of those Project Fame people who come up and sing stuff and you don't even... All right, I'm done, Tito, I'm done.
No, it's fine. It's time to go. But before we do, I just want to ask everybody here to say one thing, a final word for us before we round up. So starting with Ola, because you started first.
I think of all the points that I've probably made here, I think the most important one that that is really personal to me, I'm going to repeat. I've said it before, but I'd like everybody to kind of go away from this room remembering that your background doesn't determine your destiny. I'm living proof of that, and there's loads of other entrepreneurs and musicians and academics and public speakers and consultants that are living proof of that. And I think that that's really, really important, because Nigeria is a country where there's, such a breadth and depth of different socioeconomic classes. And I think that people from certain backgrounds honestly believe that they can't achieve anything. If you're in Abuja, visit the Senate, and you'll see that a lot of those guys... It's always a one-generation thing. So it's actually quite an interesting place to visit, in the fact that it shows how socioeconomic mobility actually works in Nigeria. You can be in Abuja by January with empty pockets, having just spent your last money to get there, and by June, you found something to do. So especially in this country, especially in Africa, your background doesn't determine your destiny. It's really, really important, I think, for people to think beyond their background and use what they have to get what they want. So that's my parting comment.
Thank you. That's amazing. Uncle Jimmy, I know words.
For me, I would like to say that there are two versions of life you can live: the one you're living now, or the better one. All right. So, I'll say this to you: if you don't live the better one, we will never know. We will never meet you at that level. I tell people that you have only one life to live. It's not like a reality show that has season 1, season 2, and more. It's one season and the end of the show. All right. So I decided a long time ago that I would live this life. If I fall, I fall. I stand, I stand. And the reason you are here today is probably because you're afraid. Not because you don't want to move forward, but because there is something ahead of you that is pulling you. But maybe there's something that's holding you right now. That thing is not strong enough. It's not big enough. It's not worth it to let go of that thing that is ahead of you, all right? So please do all you can. Don't just attend this conference. If I go to that conference and I see you, and you're the same way where you are, I will tell them to ask you to escort you, all right? Thank you. God bless you.
I think just do it. Just do it. Like, let's Nike up. But for me, it's the spirit of excellence. Failure is just not an option. And I abhor mediocrity. I abhor sloppy time management, lack of preparation. They show. Just do it, but do it well. I hate excuses. And I don't ask of people what I can't do. The spirit of excellence, be determined, focused. It's okay to be afraid, but just do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Uncle Jimmy already touched on, what I was going to talk about, but I'll say it anyways. So we've come here, and so much has been said, and the atmosphere is charged, and we're ready to go out and do it afraid. But what oftentimes happens is we go out and we go to the next Do It Afraid conference, and we're energized and the atmosphere is charged and we're so ready to do it afraid, and then we go out and we go to the next Do It Afraid conference. This happened in my university days when I was in uni. Like, there's so many, there's a lot of, motivational speaking and all that, and it was great, and people came and we were all psyched, and it was great, and we stepped out. And I would travel and come back, and people would tell me about the next one and how it was big and how it was great. And this person, look, it is only going to begin to happen when you get out of here and say, I've attended this conference. I'm going to take something from, I read a book many years ago by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was just simple principles in the book. And I said, look, I love real estate. I allowed myself to be challenged by that. I would snatch up parcels of land in places that, people would not be interested in. Just like, because, it had motivated me. It built a character in me. And I was living my life as a character out of a book because I was that fired up by that book. So I'm saying that to say, when you get out of here, right, let your story be that you went to the Do It Afraid conference and you decided that you were going to do it afraid, and that you actually go out and do it. It's easy to be psyched. It's easy to, which is why, I'll give credit to this. There's a pastor. He's our pastor, Pastor Sam Adeyemi. He'll never raise his voice to tell you anything, but he tells it to you in such a way that, you're going to know. If the intention, and it never is his intention, but if it is his intention for you to feel like or know that you're foolish, you'll be the one sitting there going like, but I'm foolish. That's how he says it. It's not about, and you'll be feeling that way 3 or 5 days later, not just because he sort of worked you to a state. So I beg you, there's been a lot of information that's been shared in this space. Do something because you were here. Do something because you came. Otherwise, it'd be a waste of your time, my time, everybody's time here. Do something because you came. And it's not going to happen like, a light wouldn't shine on your forehead. The sky wouldn't suddenly turn red. None of those things will happen. It will be a perfectly normal day. But you will make that decision in your heart to do something because you came here today. Please do it. Please.
I think this has been an incredible panel discussion. I am grateful for the opportunity to be here. One last thing, there's never the right time. There's never, ever, ever the right time. It's never going to be the right time. So just make that move. Tomorrow, everybody has told you, you're going to be broke, possibly. You might fail, possibly. You might regret it, possibly. But guess what? You will not know until you move. So the only way you can become a butterfly instead of being just a moth is by taking the first step and doing it afraid. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I hope you've learned something. Thank you very much. Ola, Jimmy, Dr. Odiwale, Kobamsa Sukwa, and Ambola Titu Bezidakola. Thank you for listening today. No.
Hello people, it's your girl Mercy Chuma, and yes, it's my first time here in Kairos Hub, and I must say that this place is a cool place to be in for your events, for your wedding, for your anniversary, your album launch. Come to Kairos Hub.
Fantastic ambience, fantastic environment, fantastic people.
I love their sound. I love the ambience. It's easy to worship. I don't know what it is with the environment, but it's just pretty easy to worship.
I bring to you Kairos Hub, your best event center to hold any event you want to hold. I said so.